Hi friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a birthday book haul despite my attempt to do a no-buy year for myself. Gifts are very welcome. So the first thing that I'm going to start with are two cookbooks. So I received the Oh She Glows cookbook and the Oh She Glows for Dinner cookbook. So I have used the first book here. My parents had a copy and we were like sharing, there's so many recipes in here that I love. So I got a copy of this from my parents. And then she has a new cookbook. They've been making a lot of stuff out of this. On my birthday, they cooked me a meal out of this book and it is so good. So these are vegan and they are either all gluten-free or very easy to make gluten-free, which is important for me. I'm very excited to start exploring this cookbook and to return to some old recipes in the original Oh She Glows cookbook. Both of these are by Angela Liddon. Love a good cookbook. The next thing in the birthday book haul is from my sister, and that is Meanwhile Back on Earth, Finding Our Place Through Time and Space, A Cosmic View on Conflict with Oliver by Oliver Jeffers. So this is a children's picture book, but it is also bleak. So it is looking at the history of human violence in terms of distance from the Earth to various space objects. So if you go to Venus, which is a 78-year drive from Earth to Venus, and we look 78 years ago, it was the middle of the 20th century and the whole planet was fighting, hopefully for the last time. You could fly your car for so many years and you would still find humans fighting. It is bleak. A lot of Jeffers' recent stuff has been quite bleak and I feel like directed more at adults, which is fine. They're still very visually stunning, but I did read that. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I would recommend it in the same way that I would recommend some of his other works. The other book that my sister bought me is Anne of Greenville by Mariko Tamaki. So Mariko Tamaki and her sister, I believe. God, I'm terrible. Hello. Editing Emily here. Mariko Tamaki is the author of This One Summer, and her cousin, Jillian Tamaki, is the illustrator of This One Summer. This One Summer, the graphic novel, is the thing that got me into their works. Mariko Tamaki had a spin on an Anne of Green Gables tale. I don't really want to know all that much about this. I'm just excited for a fresh take on Anne of Green Gables because it's such an iconic Canadian character. Delightfully queer, deliciously disco-filled, and decidedly heartfelt. It's the coming-of-age novel we need. A thoroughly modern Anne Shirley. The possibilities here, so I'm excited for this. Then I did pick up two books for myself. The first one is My Body Is Not a Prayer Request, Disability, Justice, in the Church by Amy Kenny. This is kind of what it says on the tin. I have a loose idea. At the very least, I think I'm going to be buddy reading this with my best friend who's an occupational therapist, and both of us spent a good chunk of our youth in the church, and we definitely encountered a youth leader who said that disability and all of physical, mental disabilities are a consequence of us not praying enough. So there's definitely this really gross, ableist, shitty rhetoric in the church, and so I'm curious about this response. I'm excited to hear what Kenny has to say, to see how she makes sense of disability and the church, and if they can come together. The other book that I bought for myself as a birthday treat is A Sentimental Education by Hannah McGregor. So Hannah McGregor does Witch Please podcast with Marcel Cosman. She also ran a podcast called The Secret Feminist Agenda, but she has a book out and I just enjoy her as a human, as a podcaster, and so I'm excited to see her journey, I guess, in feminist education. How did she end up where she is? Here she's exploring what podcasting has taught her about doing feminist scholarship, not as a methodology, but as a way of life. In part, this book is a memoir of one person's education as a reader and a thinker, and in part, it's an analysis of some of the genres and aesthetic modes that have been sites of feminist meaning-making: the sentimental, the personal, the banal, and the relatable. Above all, it is a meditation on what it means to care deeply and to know that caring is both necessary and utterly insufficient. So I am excited. Then I was gifted some money and told to buy something nice, i.e. the person did not want me to take this and like put it towards a bill or something. They were like, buy something nice. And so I bought books. The first book I bought is Brown Girl in the Ring by Nalo Hopkinson. I think Nalo Hopkinson has been like polarizing for me. So I've read one of my least favorite pieces of like soft science fiction from Nalo Hopkinson in The Salt Road. Maybe I need to give that one another chance, but I remember really struggling with that during my master's. And she's also written, I think, one of my favorite pieces of science fiction, which is The Midnight Robber. This is a title that comes up a lot as well. It happened to be available where I was shopping, and I decided to pick it up. So, the rich and privileged have fled the city, barricaded it behind roadblocks, and left it to crumble. The inner city has had to rediscover old ways. Farming, barter, herblore. Now the money need a harvest of bodies. And so they prey upon the helpless of the streets. Oh my god, are they eating people? I have no idea. With nowhere to turn, a young woman must open herself to ancient truths, eternal powers, and the tragic mystery surrounding her mother and grandmother. She must bargain with gods and give birth to new legend. I'm excited. I'm hopeful that this is a success, and my like not clicking with the Salt Roads was like a wrong place, wrong time sort of thing, because I loved Midnight Robber so much. Fingers crossed for me. Then I found a copy of Milk Fed by Melissa Broder, which has been on my lists for a while. I keep seeing it places. This is about Rachel, a 24-year-old lapsed Jew who has made calorie restriction her religion. Working as an underling at a Los Angeles talent management agency, she maintains an illusion of existential control by way of obsessive food rituals. Rachel is content to carry on subsisting until her therapist encourages her to take a communication detox from her mother, who raised her in the tradition of calorie counting. Rachel soon meets Miriam, a zaftig young Orthodox Jewish woman who works at her favorite frozen yogurt shop. Rachel is suddenly and powerfully entranced by Miriam, by her Sundays and her body, her faith and her family, and as the two grow closer, Rachel embarks on a journey marked by mirrors, mysticism, mothers, milk, and honey. So we're looking at physical hunger, sexual desire, spiritual longing, and the way that we try to compartmentalize these so often. It's been in my, on my radar since I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I think this is where this is coming from, this sort of modern young woman having mental health issues and struggling with that on page. I think that's where this is coming from, and I'm excited for it. Then I found a copy of From the Neck Up and Other Stories by Aliya Whiteley. The Beauty, she wrote The Beauty. It's the one where all the women are dead and it's just the men left, and then mushrooms start growing. It's great. It's fantastic. I don't want to say too much, but it's fantastic. So it's been described as equal parts Shirley Jackson and John Wyndham. And Shirley Jackson is one of my favorite authors. John Wyndham is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. I've now read several of his works, and each of them are kind of beautifully fucked. You read them and you're like, holy shit. So I'm excited about this collection. Now, these are short stories, and I do tend to struggle with short stories, but Aliya Whiteley, my experience with her was already short fiction in her novella The Beauty, and I know that she can write short fiction well. So I'm hoping that that remains true for these short stories here, and that the skill that I've seen with her previous short fiction applies to even smaller short fiction, you know? Not everybody can do short fiction. It is a true skill to write great short fiction. Then I picked up the Stephen King Companion. 4 Decades of Fear from the Master of Horror by George Beam? Biam. With my patrons, we are reading through Stephen King's books in publication order. Because Stephen King's been around for decades, he's said things in various places, and it would be nice to have something a little bit more concise, because as much as I don't care about the author under most circumstances, Stephen King is one of those authors that just keeps fucking inserting himself in the text. It's almost like he wants you to look at him and grapple with what that means. Whether it's his like forewords, afterwards, like author's note, updates, and a reprint, he won't let you kill him. So I feel like as somebody who's like guiding these book clubs, I need to know more. I'm excited to have this on hand now, so that as we're looking at, this goes till quite recently too, Bazaar of Bad Dreams, like that, because we're hitting the mid 80s, I think by the end of this year, we're still in the mid 80s. We won't hit the 90s until 2023. So I have some homework for myself. And then the last book I picked up is a used copy of A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske. I have read this book, I think earlier this year, either very early on in like January or maybe the end of December last year, and I loved this. I requested the ARC for the sequel. I've devoured them both. Found this for $7. I was very excited. So I now have this in my collection, and I can reread it, and I am so excited. It reminds me of Harry Potter, okay? It reminds me of the last Harry Potter book where the kids are like going on a trip to look for mythical objects that may or may not exist. It's that sort of quest, and we have somebody who's been brought into the world of magic who didn't know about this before. They've sort of been sucked in along on this journey. So like there's something about it, and I know that comparing things to Harry Potter is dangerous, but we're looking for things like that now. At least I am, because I still can't bring myself to reread the series. It was a series that I turned to for a certain cozy vibe, and I still can't bring myself to do that right now. I'm looking for books that give some element of what I enjoyed about the Harry Potter books in terms of feeling. They evoke a similar feeling for me as a reader, and this does it. A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske does it for me. It does have very graphic gay sex in it, which makes me feel even more delighted that it feels so evocative of Harry Potter, but then also is like, yeah, it's really fucking queer. Given the complete absence of canonically queer characters, saying Dumbledore's queer in hindsight does not count. Like on-page queerness. This just feels like a big middle finger to J.K. Rowling, and I love it. Those are the books that have come into my life since my birthday. I am very excited. I've read a few of them now, and I'm opening up one of them shortly. I think I'm going to pick up My Body Is Not a Prayer Request next, and I'm excited. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Have you read any of these? Do you want to read any of these? There are no more small book clubs this year. So for patrons, we do have one more book club this year, and we do have a hangout. If you are interested in becoming a patron, links to that are in the description box down below. Thank you to my patrons who make videos like this possible. I really appreciate the work that they enable me to do. I hope you are all doing well, that you are staying safe, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!